Hey there. Welcome to Lead Fearlessly, Strategies of Confident Women Leaders, the podcast that will empower you to unleash your inner strength and embrace leadership with confidence. I'm your host, Katie Winchenbach, and I'm excited to have you join us as we dive into the experiences of extraordinary women who've shattered glass ceilings and redefined success on their own terms. Get ready to be motivated, challenged, and equipped with the tools and strategies to lead fearlessly in your own life and career. I am so excited to welcome our guest for today, Rachelle Sosa. Rachelle is, oh my gosh, really, what is she not? She is the president of logistics at Freight Tech. She has started several companies. She is a member of the Chief Organization, the Bold Leaders Collective, and the Outliers Project. She is also a licensed Reiki master and does breath work and meditation. So, Rachelle, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Katie. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to share this opportunity to be one of your first guests on your new show. Congratulations to you and for the empowerment that you will bring all of us in this beautiful world. I love it. Love it. Raising them up, girl. Raise them up.
Let's just jump right in, because I know this is going to be such an exciting conversation. And I'm going to turn it over to you to really just walk us through your career path and how did you get to the place that you're in today? Because you are wearing so many really awesome hats.
Well, I guess I should say thank you, Mom and Dad, for the ADHD. Because if it weren't for them, I would not be able to multitask like the expert that I have become in so many numerous fields. It could also be attributed to 3 boys that I raised and several grandkids, and that's just the way life goes. It's almost like if you're a mom, you're automatically going to have to put so many irons in the fire. You're going to have to figure out how to do this and that. So my journey started probably, I would say, if I was born with an initiative to earn money, and money was like my key thing. And at 12 years old, I started working. I'm from South Alabama. I started working in this little fish bait place. I just was extremely I needed to know I could go over and get an ice cream if I wanted, do what I wanted, buy what I wanted. And it motivated me all my life. I think I was kind of born with that. And all my boys are that way as well. And they're all entrepreneurs in their own right as well. And I think that I am the most proud that they have taken after that and chosen to go on their own. So when I was like 12, I did that thing. And then when I was 16, I started working at a bank and going to school, high school at the same time, transferred into a logistics company. It was called Blooming Foods in South Alabama at that time. And now it's Cisco Foods. That wasn't quite my thing. Working in an office 9 to 5 kind of drove me silly, and they wouldn't let me stare out the window, Katie, so I had to figure out another way to keep my mind occupied. So I moved to Texas, and I've lived here for over 30 years now. And when I came here, I transferred with that same company. And again, it just didn't appease me. I needed something to keep my mind alert. I traveled outside of my own ability and learned a new talent, and I started tanning bed. Opened a tanning bed. I didn't care for that. It was kind of boring. I opened a medical spa. I was 29 years old, ran that a while. I was so intrigued with wellness at that time. And I remember I just was kind of feeding around, talking to my neighbors, and one of my neighbors, actually 2 of my sets of neighbors, own a freight brokerage. So I started a freight brokerage, and they were kind enough to lend me a hand and teach me all about it. And it just took off. I'll never forget. My first customer ever was a steel company here in Arlington, Texas, outside of Dallas. And after that, I've been in it ever since. And I also, I attribute the wellness part of my journey because of this logistics that I am in. It is, I would say, 90% men. And talk about climbing the ladder. I climb the rungs of each ladder every day over and over. It's almost a nightmare, but I loved it at first. It is definitely shifting and a lot of stress involved, but I'm super proud. I am 55 years old, and for 30 years, I've basically ran two different companies, one being the wellness and one being logistics, and being able to kind of spread enough of myself to teach my boys. Two of the three are now working in my logistics company. Now I will be able to step back, let them run it, and I can not retire because I don't think that'll ever happen, but I can now focus more on my wellness journey. It's overwhelming joy to uplift each other. And that's the way we have to do this journey, this thing called life. So
it really is. And I want to dig in because the first thing that I thought of when you mentioned, I started working in freight and logistics, and I'm thinking, wholly male-dominated field. Tell me, what was that experience like for you? Just starting out and finding your way when I'm sure you were often the only woman in the room.
I am still often the only woman in the room, and my boys, of course, work for me, so I'm still on that journey. I had to kind of get over trying to prove to men that I could do their job, and actually kind of laughable in some retrospect. I'll give you a funny story. I have a big customer, United Rentals. Shout out United Rentals. And one of the guys from one of the branches called me. He said, "Hey, Rachelle, I hear that you move big boy toys." And I paused and I said, "No, sweetheart, I move big girl toys." And he goes, "I absolutely love that." It's, I guess, a mindset, almost like in the old days in the 50s, we were putting women in the kitchen with the apron. And in the 60s, we kind of climbed out of that a little bit in the 70s, 80s, et cetera, et cetera. So now it's time. My husband does all of our cooking. I do absolutely nothing in this kitchen. I love my kitchen. I love my food, but I love when my husband does it all. And I tend to be, I'll cook, but very rarely, and don't want to eat my food anyway. So as a great example, I'm over here shoveling freight down the streets and, transporting equipment that's 100,000-pound pieces of equipment for big companies like that, or steel or whatever. And he's in the kitchen. I think roles have so much more changed. Now, don't get me wrong. My husband works for Siemens Building Technologies. He does all kinds of stuff too, but I love the fact that we can start transitioning and teaching our children that there are no roles. Every one of us can do whatever we'd like to do. We just have to set our minds to do so.
I love that message because I think that is such an important mindset. And I think it's so impressive that you really had that early on, because you just started right out of the gate and you were like, I'm going to find something I'm excited about. I'm going to dive into starting different businesses, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, seeing what I like. How did you kind of build that confidence in yourself and in your strengths?
At first, it was not confidence as much as it was lack of fear. I have fear of failure, and it's something I strive for every day to teach anyone that I can help at all. Why are we afraid to start over? Why are we afraid to fail? Who are we disappointing? It should only be yourself. And I don't disappoint myself that I try new things. I'm 55 and I'm about to build a retreat. And I don't care. I'm not intimidated by it. And guess what, Katie? If it fails, I'm going to try again and try again. I guess that, like the little train, choo choo. I'm the choo choo. Just give it to me, throw it at me. I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't stick, I'm going to move on and try something different. I think that's also something, Katie, that we're growing in society with. And that's reason why we were discussing earlier, I'm going to go into a beautiful group of women who are in supply chain logistics at University of Texas in Dallas. Those 30 women will be able to give someone like me who came from nothing. I didn't have money. No one gave me a silver spoon and said, hey, here's $1 million to start your own company. I did this on my own. And believe me, girl, it was not easy. I failed and failed and failed. But the biggest thing is, don't be embarrassed to fail. Try harder. Don't be embarrassed if you try as hard as you can and it still fails. My theory is it just wasn't meant to be. Sometimes your failures are your positive things in life. You fail because it was not meant for you to go that way. Like Robert Frost's poem, two roads diverge. Maybe you took the wrong one. Start backing it up. Beep, 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 beep. Go the other way. And sometimes I always preach to my community that I work with in wellness. Why are we not listening to our gut? Why do we always fight our own intuition? And that's fear. But we have to remember how important it is to teach the next generation. Fear is a positive thing. It's okay to have fear. It's actually built into us. We're animals just like any other animal. We have to make sure that we don't allow what everyone else thinks to over process our brain, stay in our own lane. And I am one to say, hey, I value your opinion of what I'm doing, but in the end, you're not doing the work. I am. So I'm going to have to go with how I feel about this. And if I'm wrong, hey, it won't be the first time, Katie, and it won't be the last, girl.
I love that. I think intuition so often, and the idea of like following your gut, even when it's scary, like just going for it, I don't think it's talked about enough, because I think we get too focused on thinking through what makes sense logically, thinking through what other people are going to say, and we just take that gut feeling and like shove it deep down.
Yep, absolutely. You just put the nail on the head. But I also understand, coming from the heart, to have a conversation and say, I do value everything you're telling me. And I know that you're stating these things because you care about me, mom, dad, to a teenager that says, hey, I want to go and do a lemonade stand or whatever. Go do it. I was 12. I started this thing at 12, and I'm not going to stop. And you won't kill me at 90. I'll probably still be out there, and heck, I might even open my own lemonade stand next. You never know. It is just so important for us to lead our young and our youth and say, what do you want to do? Maybe we just need to take a chill pill, as we say, have a margarita, relax on the beach, and let it come. And when you've devoted yourself to do so much work, for instance, in high school, your work, homework, test. It's almost overwhelming when they say, well, what do you want to be one day? Katie, what do you want to be? I just want to be Katie. It's like, what do you mean, what do I want to be? Am I not enough with just who I am, that my job is who I am? My job is who I, relate to. I want to relate to just being Rachelle. I want to be a good person. I want to do whatever I can for anyone that I can help.
I love the focus that you're having on doing what makes you happy. And I say that because I feel too often we almost get stuck on the hamster wheel. And I can say this from personal experience. I really went from high school, which was a college prep high school, to college, and had this very linear path planned out for myself, and was doing all of the things that I felt like I needed to be doing and that I should be doing. And it really wasn't until my senior year of college that I paused and was like, wait a minute, I'm not even enjoying this. Like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Like, no. And I think there's so much pressure for women to get on the hamster wheel and keep going and follow this path that is laid out.
Absolutely. And I do think it stems from the old school thought patterns that we were taught, work hard. If you are out there and you have an urge, a need, a gut feeling that you don't want to, be the president of a company, of a logistics company, go and be a surfer if you want to be, because I remember I watched, I can't recall where it was, but it was somebody, it was a joke, basically Facebook or whatever. And it was a guy saying, "Hey, I've retired today." And he looks at his watch. He goes, "I got 8 more minutes to live." And that's the problem. We work so hard till 65, 75, 85, some people. And then what are we living for? Are we living? The question is, are we living? That's where I found my wellness, because I watched my stepdad, who was a nuclear engineer, and he worked his buns off all of his life. And then he developed multiple sclerosis. And for 35 years, he lived with that disease. And I watched his strength. He was so strong and powerful, like the poem, The Man in the Arena. We didn't know what he was going through. And I think that's the biggest thing, Katie. We don't get to know people on a real basis. We get to know from a title, Rachelle Sosa president. But what about Rachelle Sosa mom, or Rachelle Sosa grandma? Of course, they call me Nana. I'm way too young for but I also want to encourage them to be happy, do whatever you want to do. And I'm not looking up or down to anyone. I'm not judging someone for whatever they would like to do in life, because the most important thing is that we live life. We only have one go around. Let's do it. Let's have fun.
That's true. And when you were going through your experiences, how did you know, like, this is what I want to do next, or this is what it's time for me to move on? Because I think those are hard decisions for folks to make.
We are animals just like cats, dogs, and they have instincts. We have instincts, Katie. We are human, but we are animals, just like mammals, etc. What our issue is, we forget we have instincts. And a good example is that I went to a chief organization, and I'm sitting outside by myself, and this beautiful soul is sitting there at a table by herself, kind of head down, and me being the blabber that I am. But my heart reached out. I listened to my heart, because you have 2 seconds to change your own mind. That's my theory. You have 2 seconds to change your own mind. So I'm looking at her, and my heart says, go and talk to her. Well, my brain says, Rachelle, you don't know this girl. She's a stranger. What are you thinking? Stranger danger, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. You're thinking, what do I do? Do I listen to my heart and go and say hello to a total stranger? Or do I listen to my head? Listen to your heart. Don't be ashamed or embarrassed or shy. Walk over, because you never know, Katie, when that person just needs that hi, that hello. You never know when your life is going to change and their life will change. And it's always to a positive view, with a heart and a kind way to do things,
Thinking back, when you were starting your companies, when you were just beginning to be a people leader, that, to me, getting into that leadership role is kind of a whole new experience. What was your journey like, finding who you wanted to be as a leader in that corporate space?
Well, Katie, I've served as a vice president of a very large company who recently sold out to C.H. Robinson. I dealt with 365 employees, and mostly men, as a VP in that company. And then again, I went back on my own and started my own again. I don't know that I would identify with that quote unquote leader thing. And I have a hard time with that word, because I think we are all given the opportunity to lead each other. I don't think, because you've worked really hard and you've earned this title, again, it's just a title. In the end, I'm just a human, and I just want the best for all of us. So as a person who was placed into a position, that's what I'd like to say about that leadership thing. I like to encourage. Let's title me as an encourager, because I like to encourage growth. I like to encourage, decency and humanity. I like to encourage people to go out and learn about themselves, but also learn about others, and raise each other up. And, okay, to the guys out there, shout out, guys. We're going to give you a little prop. We will help you, encourage you as well. Gives you such great, warm feeling to know that you've done something kind every day. And so as an encourager, I'm going to change my title. As an encourager, I don't want to be separate from my employees, separate from my friends, etc. I like to be one of, and the brand that we're starting, Katie, and hey, you're the first one that's going to hear it. It is called We, and it stands for Wellness Solution. We, because we are one. We all have the same issues. We all put our pants on, skirts on. Of course, maybe men don't put skirts on, but we put our clothes on the same way. We all come home and just want to, watch TV and veg sometimes, or listen to podcasts that Katie's on. We all have our own problems, issues. We're just human. And I think a lot of times we just tend to want to put the caste system, like in India, they have caste systems where, or a higher up, a lower up. I don't feel that for myself. I don't feel I need that distinguishing title of leader as much as I feel like the title of encourager would work best for all of us to say, hey, I'm going to encourage you. If that's what you want to do, go do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. And let people know it's okay.
And clearly from your resume and from this conversation, I can tell that you are really excited about empowering and uplifting other women. And I know you're part of some organizations that do that. And I think just personally, you've really incorporated that into your life. So tell us a little bit more about kind of the work you do with those organizations and how you've really integrated that into who you are.
Well, I started, Chief was my first, and believe me, there are some amazing talented women in that organization. When I started jumping online, it was, COVID had hit, so we were jumping in and doing different meetings online and learning about each other. I found one of the young ladies was talking about meditation and yoga, and these are things that I'm very empowered with. We held a couple of chief wellness events in the New York City and in the Chicago clubhouses. And I was so excited to be there and to prop us all up and to all learn. And PVOLV was involved, which is Jennifer Aniston's company. A group of the PVOLV ladies came out to do a little bit of a workout with us. And then we had some sound bath and meditation and yoga, etc. And then I was there in almost like an overwhelming presence of we're going to do this, that, and the other. And then I was humbled to the 10th degree when this beautiful woman, honestly, like when I say beautiful, I mean beautiful, tall, lanky, gorgeous woman from New York City walks over to me, and she was like a former beauty pageant winner. And she said, you've really changed my life. And I looked at her like, what? I don't change lives. What do you mean? I'm just here to do yoga and meditation. And she said, I am a participant in one of your chief meetings that I held once a month. And my daughter and I, she's a teen, and we were not getting along. And I would really think I almost lost her. But because I listened to you and your empowerment and your ability, I'm a Reiki master, and we were talking about Reiki and et cetera. She took it upon herself. She went out. She listened to what I was stating. She listened to her gut. She knew what she needed to do. She went and got certified in Reiki. She learned meditation. She started doing all these things. Her teenage daughter, now her and, the teen were getting along, but that was something they could connect with. And she used that as a tool for her to connect with her daughter. And she said, you changed my world. Don't let me get a little teary-eyed, Katie. I'm going to try to keep it down. She said, you changed my world. I have chill bumps all over, because that little bit to say, what, you can do this just like I can. And that me, the ability to learn how to control my tempers, because, mothers and teenagers, that's the way it goes, hormones. And she said that connected me, and I didn't lose my daughter because of that. Now, Katie, that one thing, that should go to show us all that it's not about a title. It's about a connection. It's about a connection. It's about sharing an experience of life. Not what do you want to be when you grow up, but what kind of human being do you want to be when you expand your mind to love from the heart? To lead, if that's what you want to say, to encourage others, to hold them accountable when they need to be. I'm not saying let them just fly out by the seat of their pants, but we have to learn that we're all just in this thing together.
I just want to repeat something you said in there that honestly gave me chills. And you said, what type of human do you want to be? And I think that is such a powerful question for everyone to ask themselves, and a really impactful way to shift that focus off of what should I be doing? Am I making the next right steps? And really focus on what is important to you and how you want to show up.
Exactly. That's the issue. When we show up for ourselves first, when we heal our traumas, our stresses, our angers, whatever we have within us, because we are animals, we are human, then we can show up for others. It's almost like being on a flight. You're on an airplane, they say, use your oxygen mask first. And at first I'm like, what? Now I get it. Please put your oxygen mask on first, because if we don't take care of Katie and Rachelle, how does Rachelle and Katie take care of someone else? How can we help them heal if we have not healed ourselves? There's nothing that I have done in my life that I'm ashamed of, and I've done a lot of crazy things. Don't get me wrong, Katie, but I'm not ashamed of that because I grew. I grew from it. I made mistakes. I grew from it. And I can honestly say I am ready to expand other people in their growth now. But at first, I can't do that if I'm not healed. So a lot of times when we stay in those dead-end jobs, we hate them. We know we're not supposed to be in them, but we stay in them because, hey, you know what? I'm making $500,000 a year. I live in a big, beautiful home, and I come home and my wife and I, or my husband and I, whatever, we argue all the time. We're not happy, but we've got this beautiful, expensive car, and we've got this home but if we leave it and we sell everything and we drive a Kia, Katie, I drive a Kia, and we go and it's more like, am I trying to please me, or am I trying to please my neighbor on what they think? Girl, I don't care what they think. I don't. But it took me a long time to not care, because society says, why don't you drive the Mercedes? Why don't you drive, the Bentley? Why don't you do this? If you're identifying yourself with the make, model of a car, the home, the size of your home, or the people you hang out with, I can throw a zillion other names that I know, and even just in the Dallas area, some great, some not. But that doesn't define me. That doesn't define who Rachelle is. And that's what's important. Being mindful of our humanity.
If you had to look back on all of the lessons you've learned, everything you've experienced in your journey, and pick one and be like, this is the most important lesson that I've learned. I wish I knew this from the beginning. What would that one lesson be?
Let me tell you the lesson from the standpoint of how we changed our lives with one simple gesture again. My oldest son is ADHD like me. His wife says he's basically a limb off of my body. We're so much alike. And when he was young, he was so much for me. As a mother who has ADHD and is raising a child with ADHD, I was so overwhelmed. And I recall when I first moved to Texas, if I could find this lady, I swear I would kiss her feet. Her name is Linda. She was my neighbor for a very short time. And I remember I dropped my son off with her for like an hour. I asked her if she would watch him so I could go grab groceries. I was a single mom at that time. And I was probably gone 20 minutes, and she called me and she said, Rachelle, you've got to come and get him. And I said, why? What's going on? She said, I'm a manager of a daycare. And and he's too much. And I said, wow. I mean, I was in tears, like, wow. I show up to pick him back up, and she hands me a book. That book changed my life and his life. And if you want to think about it, my future children's lives as well, because I had no clue what ADHD was, which now I'm told that it's just all ADD. I had no clue that I even had it. I didn't know what that was. So I always was told, you're rambunctious. You need to sit still. I don't know why you don't sit down. I don't know why you can't pay attention. All those negative things. Why aren't you like everyone else? And in reality, being ADHD, ADD, whatever, it's a gift to be able to multitask that many things at one time and not get overwhelmed. So I show up, Linda hands me a book, and it is a book about that disorder. And as I learned, I read that book. I took her advice. I took my son and went to a child study center, and it changed and transformed his life, my future children's lives. That one moment, that one woman said, I'm going to give her this book. I'm going to share this book for her. That was it. I can't imagine how many people out there felt like I did, unworthy, beat down, because our old society said, you are a bad kid. You deserve, to sit in the corner. You're in timeout because you can't stop talking. And look, I love to talk. Obviously, I'm ADHD. That made me feel so much more empowered to know how to raise my child. And that child is a physician, graduate with a full scholarship from Columbia University. He would never have had that experience in his life if that one simple gesture that Linda made handing me that book those many years ago had not been done for me. That was done for me, not to me. I needed to read that. And it awakened me also to say, wait a minute, I'm not lazy. I don't have focus issues. I have a disorder. So when we see people and we see a crying mother, for instance, in the mall, and everyone's staring at her and shaking her head and can't believe you can't control your child, how about give her grace? Because she's the best she can do. And you don't know her scenario. So instead of judging, reach out and say, hey, it's okay. It really is. It's okay. If your child's in the floor, tear a tantrum all over the floor, it's okay. It's okay. Those kind words can transform lives.
That's amazing. Rachelle, thank you so much for sharing all of this. This has been an incredible conversation.
Thank you, Katie, so much for having me and so much for being one of your very first guests. I'm so excited to see your journey. And anytime you need anything, girl, you reach out. I am right here for you.
Pop on down to the show notes to connect with Rachelle and see what she's up to with her wellness journey. Thanks for tuning in to Lead Fearlessly, Strategies of Confident Women Leaders. If you've been inspired by today's episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a friend who could use a confidence boost. Remember to subscribe so you won't miss out when we drop our next season. And if you found our conversations valuable, please leave us a 5-star review. Your support helps us continue to amplify the voices of incredible women leaders and inspire more fearless female trailblazers. We'll see you next time.